In the year 79 AD, on the western coast of Italy, there stood a thriving Roman city called Pompeii. Located near the Bay of Naples, Pompeii was a place of wealth, culture, and everyday life. Stone streets echoed with the sound of merchants opening their shops, children running through narrow alleyways, and travelers arriving from distant parts of the Roman Empire. Pompeii was not a small village. It was a prosperous city with grand villas, colorful frescoes, bathhouses, temples, and busy marketplaces. Farmers from the surrounding countryside arrived every morning with carts filled with olives, grapes, and grain. Bakers prepared fresh bread in large stone ovens while citizens gathered in cafes to talk about politics, business, and rumors from Rome. Life in Pompeii moved with a comfortable rhythm. Wealthy families relaxed in private, courtyards decorated with fountains and marble statues, public baths filled with warm steam as citizens gathered to socialize. In the distance, vineyards stretched across the fertile volcanic soil, producing some of the finest wine in the region. And above all of this daily life stood a towering mountain that watched over the city, Mount Vesuvius. To the people of Pompeii, Vesuvius was simply part of the landscape. The mountain had been quiet for centuries. Its slopes were green with farms and vineyards, and many citizens believed it was completely harmless. Children played in the streets beneath its shadow. Merchants conducted business without ever looking toward its silent peak. But beneath the mountain, deep below the surface of the earth, something was beginning to change. Pressure was building slowly inside the volcano. Small tremors occasionally shook the ground, but earthquakes were common in this region. Most people paid little attention to them. Cracked walls could be repaired. Fallen statues could be lifted back onto their pedestals. Life continued. No one in Pompeii truly understood what the mountain was capable of. The city carried on with its daily routine. Markets remained busy. Taverns were filled with laughter and conversation. Sailors arrived at the nearby harbor bringing goods from across the Mediterranean. Everything appeared normal. But in less than 24 hours, the entire city would vanish beneath ash and fire, and Pompeii would become one of the most haunting disasters in human history. In the days before the destruction of Pompeii, the first warnings had already begun to appear. At first, they seemed small, almost ordinary. The people of the city had lived with earthquakes for years, so when the ground trembled again in late August of 79 AD, most citizens barely reacted. Small tremors shook houses and temples throughout the city. Pots fell from shelves. Cracks appeared in walls that had already been damaged by earlier earthquakes years before. Merchants paused for a moment as the ground moved beneath their feet, but soon they returned to their daily business. For many people in Pompeii, earthquakes were simply part of life. But Mount Vesuvius was no longer quiet. Deep inside the volcano, pressure had been building for centuries. Magma and gas were slowly rising toward the surface. The mountain that had once seemed peaceful was becoming increasingly unstable. Then, on the morning of August 24th, something extraordinary happened. Around midday, a massive column of ash and smoke suddenly burst from the summit of Mount Vesuvius. The eruption sent a towering plume of volcanic material high into the sky. Ancient Roman writer Pliny the Younger would later describe it as looking like a giant pine tree rising above the mountain. At first, many citizens watched the cloud with curiosity rather than fear. From the streets of Pompeii, the dark column expanded into the sky, spreading like a gigantic umbrella above the volcano. Soon, pieces of volcanic rock began falling from the sky. Ash drifted down like grey snow, covering rooftops, streets, and gardens. The air began to grow thicker. Breathing became more difficult. Some people realized the danger and began to flee the city immediately. Families gathered their belongings and rushed toward the roads leading out of Pompeii. Others stayed. Some believed the eruption would soon stop. Others simply had nowhere to go. As the afternoon passed, the sky above Pompeii grew darker and darker. The sun disappeared behind the expanding cloud of ash. What had begun as curiosity was slowly turning into fear. But the true disaster had not yet arrived. The deadliest phase of the eruption was still approaching the city. By the late afternoon, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius had turned into a full catastrophe. The sky above Pompeii was now almost completely black, filled with thick clouds of volcanic ash. What had once looked like a distant plume of smoke had grown into a massive storm, covering the entire region. Ash continued to fall over the city like grey snow. At first it was light, but soon the layer became heavier and heavier. Streets, rooftops, and gardens slowly disappeared beneath the thick volcanic dust. Inside the city, panic was spreading rapidly. Families rushed through the streets trying to escape. Some people gathered their belongings and attempted to leave Pompeii through the city gates. Others hid inside their homes, hoping the eruption would soon end. But the situation was becoming worse with every passing hour. Large pieces of volcanic rock began falling from the sky, crashing into rooftops and streets. Many buildings started to collapse under the growing weight of ash and debris. The air became thick and difficult to breathe. Darkness covered the city even though the sun had not yet set. People tried to protect themselves by covering their faces with cloth and running through the ash-filled streets. Yet an even greater danger was approaching. During the night, the eruption reached its most deadly phase. Deep inside the volcano, pressure had built to an unimaginable level. Suddenly, a massive surge of superheated gas, ash, and volcanic rock exploded from the mountain and rushed down its slopes. This deadly cloud is known today as a pyroclastic surge. It moved faster than any human could run. Within minutes, the scorching wave reached the outskirts of Pompeii. Temperatures rose instantly to hundreds of degrees. The burning mixture of gas and ash filled the streets and buildings of the city. There was no time to escape. Many people collapsed where they stood. Others tried to shield their families from the deadly heat. Some were found curled on the ground, desperately trying to breathe. In a matter of moments, the entire city was overwhelmed. Pompeii disappeared beneath a thick blanket of volcanic ash and debris. The once vibrant Roman city was gone. But the tragedy of Pompeii would not remain hidden forever. Centuries later, when archaeologists began excavating the buried city, they would uncover one of the most haunting discoveries in human history. 4 centuries after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, the city of Pompeii remained buried beneath layers of volcanic ash and hardened stone. The once thriving Roman city slowly disappeared from memory. Over time, nature covered the land with soil, plants, and new settlements. Eventually, very few people even knew that a great city had once stood there. Nearly 1700 years later, in the 18th century, explorers searching for ancient Roman artifacts began digging in the region near Mount Vesuvius. What they discovered beneath the ground shocked the world. Hidden under meters of volcanic ash lay the lost city of Pompeii. As archaeologists continued excavating the site, they uncovered remarkably well-preserved streets, houses, temples, and marketplaces. Walls were still decorated with colorful fresco paintings. Household objects such as pottery, furniture, and tools remained almost exactly where they had been left on the day of the eruption. It was as if the city had been frozen in time. But the most haunting discoveries were yet to come. While digging through the hardened volcanic ash, archaeologists noticed strange hollow spaces in the ground. These cavities seemed to appear in the shape of human bodies. Over time, researchers realized what had happened. When the people of Pompeii died during the eruption, their bodies were buried beneath ash and debris. As years passed, the bodies decomposed, but the hardened ash around them preserved the exact shape of their final positions. Archaeologists developed a method to reveal these final moments. They carefully filled the hollow spaces with plaster. When the plaster hardened and the outer ash was removed, the shapes of the victims appeared before them. Human figures frozen in their last moments of life. Some were lying on the ground, trying to shield themselves from the falling ash. Others were found embracing their loved ones. One famous cast shows a parent protecting a child. These figures tell the final story of Pompeii, not through words, but through silence. Today, the ruins of Pompeii stand as one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites in the world. Millions of visitors walk through its ancient streets every year, seeing the preserved homes, the temples, and the tragic reminders of the people who once lived there. Above the city, Mount Vesuvius still rises quietly over the landscape, a silent reminder of the power that once destroyed an entire civilization in a single day. Pompeii did not simply vanish. It was preserved, captured forever in the ash of history.